5 golf course because real heroes wear polo and sometimes socks with sandals. Book your tee time now at playpebblelake.com. Pebble Lake Golf. Golf like a father.
Sunrise Rotary is dedicated to improving the lives of others through a variety of health, hunger, and humanitarian efforts. This year's international project is the Farm and Health Security of Mount Selinda, Zimbabwe. Sunrise Rotary of Fergus Falls donated 2 farm tractors to the community of Mount Selinda in 2014. However, the tractors are in need of repair. With your help, new tires, replacement parts, and maintenance supplies will be sent to ensure the continued success of this project. This message in support of Sunrise Rotary brought to you by Otter Tail Coaches of Fergus Falls.
It's Morning Talk on News Talk 1250 KBRF, brought to you by Pioneer Care and Fergus Falls Monument Company. Now, here's Mary Dolan and Dave Bishop.
Good Thursday morning. This is sort of we've got sort of an interesting situation going on here today, don't we, Dave? Dave, I can't hear you.
Testing 1, 2. There we
Find out
go.
if I have the right thing on. Okay, it's Thursday.
And everybody who's a longtime listener knows that every once in a while I refer to being in that room as the Mondiest Monday. And Mary's like, yeah, Dave's frantically running around clicking buttons, and there's a lot of buttons to click in there, isn't there, Derek?
Yeah, and sometimes you just hit the phone button instead of the conference room.
Well, it's Rotary Radio Days. Dick joins me this morning as we're going to start things off talking about Rotary. And Dick, thanks for coming in, and obviously thanks for all you do to help our community. And we spend a lot of time during Rotary Radio Days talking about the major projects, what's happening in Mount Selinda, what's happening down Bolivia. But it's always good to look at the everyday projects. What does Rotary do locally, and what are some of the other things that Rotary's involved in? Welcome.
Well, we do several things on a regular basis to try and do a little good around the community. Twice a year, we have a road ditch cleanup, a section of 2 miles of north of Fergus Falls to clean up. During the school year, from October through May, we help United Way every first Tuesday of the month, filling backpacks for children around the community that may be food deprived. Unfortunately, we fill too many. We fill almost 150 of them every week.
And that's probably one of my favorite United Way projects is that backpack feeding program because, like you said, there's a large portion of our community, the kids, that they just don't have food at home.
Exactly. And yeah, but we're happy to do that, and it's a lot of fun as well. Um, the other thing a lot of our members do is they read to the children at McKinley School
Okay.
during the school year, and they just have a ball doing that. They just come back raving about how much fun they have reading to these kids. And speaking of reading, the other thing we do on a regular basis is that every week a speaker that we have gets honored with a book in his name that's given to the children's section of the Fergus Falls
Oh, nice.
Public Library. Um, so yeah, those are the small things that we do try to do on a regular basis.
And it is nice to see, the local impact and the local community support that the Rotary does. And as you look at your years in Rotary, what are some of the favorite things you've done? I mean, what do you look forward to the most? I mean, obviously everybody loves the meetings.
The meetings are great. We somehow come up with terrific speakers every week of the year. Um, the other thing that's really good is I love the group of people.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of fun. Um, we, we enjoy doing things together.
Now, if somebody was to come up to you and say, Dick, why should I join Rotary? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, as I said before, that we have a lot of fun. You meet great people, um, and you feel good doing a little bit of something to help the community.
That is one thing that Rotarians are obviously known for is their community support and just kind of getting out there and doing stuff and being proactive, not just kind of sitting on their hands. They get out there, they use their hands, whether it's cleaning ditches or whether it's reading for the kids. They get out and really get involved with the community.
Correct. Correct.
Dick, anything else you want to mention as we talk Rotary this morning?
Well, we'll mention we are as you mentioned, heavily involved in international projects. We are working on providing funds to build a clinic in Zimbabwe. Let's see, there's something else I can't remember.
There's a school in Bolivia.
Yes, there's a school project in Bolivia as well, and I think those are pretty exciting.
Well, sounds excellent, Dick. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for all you do to help our community.
Thank you.
It's News Talk 1250 KBRF Rotary Radio Days. We're going to take a quick little 90-second break, and we'll be back with more of Morning Talk on News Talk 1250 KBRF. Morning Talk brought to you by Pioneer Care and by Fergus Falls Bodyman. It's the Great Fergus Falls Get-Together this weekend. Summerfest is back this Friday and Saturday with food, drinks, live music, fireworks on Friday, and a parade on Saturday. Check out Summerfest Facebook page for a complete listing of events.
Roll into summer with Northwest Tire. Receive a $50 instant rebate when you purchase any set of 4-passenger or light truck tires in stock with installation and purchase of premium tire coverage. Plus, get a $100 instant rebate when you use your Northwest Tire credit card. See store or website for more details. Sale valid at your Northwest Tire June 1st through the 30th.
Northwest Tire keeps you rolling down the road.
Sunrise Rotary is dedicated to improving the lives of others through a variety of health, hunger, and humanitarian efforts. This year's international project is the Farm and Health Security of Mount Selinda, Zimbabwe. Sunrise Rotary of Fergus Falls donated 2 farm tractors to the community of Mount Selinda in 2014. However, the tractors are in need of repair. With your help, new tires, replacement parts, and maintenance supplies will be sent to ensure the continued success of this project. This message in support of Sunrise Rotary brought to you by West Tool Enclosures.
Keeping you company out on the lakes, the Minnesota Twins, and News Talk 1250 AM KBRF.
Hey, Twins fans, it's afternoon baseball today. Twins and the Rangers rubber match of a 3-game series. We hit the air at 11:30, so bring the coffee and the bagels. Then at 12:10, it's first pitch. It's Bailey Ober and Patrick Corbin. Will take you from late breakfast on into the afternoon. Join me and Dan right here on your home for Twins baseball.
News Talk 1250 AM KBRF. Depend on it.
Welcome back to Morning Talk here on News Talk 1250 KBRF. Dave, Rotary Days is such an interesting week.
It really is. Rotary Radio Days, we've been doing this for many, many years. Our general manager, Doug Gray, is heavily involved in Rotary, and so he started it when he took over as general manager. And it's a great way to look at what people in our community are doing. And it kind of, like Dick was talking about some of the local projects that Rotary gets involved in, because a lot of times when we talk Rotary, we talk about, the tractors in Mount Selinda, the school in Zimbabwe, the clinic in Zimbabwe, the school in Bolivia. And so you think, okay, they're involved in, those are Rotary International projects. And so it's good to see, some of the local projects as well. And it's really fun. All the Rotarians that come in to talk to us are always fun to talk to.
Yeah, definitely. It's always interesting to see like the local side of anything that's going on.
And it's especially in such a news-heavy world that we live in, especially lately, how news-heavy we've been. It's good to see that people are out there working and doing good for our community.
Yeah. So it is Thursday. This is our weekend right up to the weekend morning talk show. What are you doing this weekend, Dave?
Well, as we look at this weekend, obviously it's Father's Day, so
Yep.
we're going to do some special stuff with Dad. I'm going to smoke. I picked up the other day just a huge pork tenderloin, but I think I'm going to cut it in half and freeze half of it and smoke the other half. I just do a little bacon lattice around it, and then put it on the smoker for a couple hours and just kind of enjoy that on Saturday. So I'm hoping that it'll be dry for a couple reasons. A, we got Summerfest in Fergus Falls. It's Summerfest weekend, so we want everybody to be able to come into town and enjoy. We got fireworks Friday. We got 32 Below Friday. There's also on Saturday the big parade and all the other activities up at Kirkbride. So I know tonight we're gonna get a little bit of rain, and so it might make it a little soggy up on the Kirkbride grounds. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be another fun year up at the Kirkbride. I remember years upon years ago when I was a little kid. It used to be before it was Summerfest, it was called Scandinavian Days, and I remember them being at NP Park at the time. It's now Dr. Allen Magnuson Park. But I remember it being there. I remember being downtown, and when it was downtown, you get some of these hot days where the sun would just radiate off the asphalt and the streets and sidewalks and buildings and just be hot and unbearable. So the fact that they've got up the Kirkbride where it's on on grass, and B, you got all that shade with those trees, it's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I've only started going to Summerfest the last few years. I didn't grow up in town here, so it was my wife that sort of introduced me. She loves Summerfest.
Yeah.
That's why this weekend, I know Father's Day's on Sunday.
Yep.
That's not the priority this weekend. Our priority is Summerfest. So if it's raining Friday, Saturday, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I think there's gonna be a lot of people going to be disappointed, but
I know.
I'm hoping that it does hold off. I know it's supposed to rain tonight into tomorrow, but hopefully it'll miss us a little bit. I want it to just sit over Battle Lake. West Battle Lake is still so low. I need there to be water eventually. But as we look forward to the weekend, there's a lot of things happening in the news, and a lot of them just make me shake my head. President Trump plans to phase out FEMA after the hurricane season and have disaster relief funds distributed directly from the president's office. He said that states will receive less federal aid for natural disasters and that FEMA fundamentally needs to go away. Trump's comments mark a dramatic shift from current protocol under which FEMA oversees the distribution of disaster aid to states. Now, I I really don't agree with that. There's some stuff Trump does that I like, and I'm not a fan of this one. What do you think about
This
that, Derek?
is I really don't like this. I one of the things that I personally feel like the federal government is sort of in charge of is sort of having those safety nets.
Yeah.
You know, especially since FDR's New Deal, it a lot of what the government has done is provide safety nets. So, and that's one luxury we have as U.S. citizens is that we can focus on some of that stuff. And so I think FEMA is one of the most fundamental, not necessarily FEMA itself,
It-
but the idea of like providing aid to states in a time of disaster is sort of like the fundamental basic. So to be saying that that the presidential office is going to be taking that over and that he's not going to distribute as much funds to those states really concerns me a little bit.
And I mean, I understand why he doesn't like FEMA. It goes back to one of the hurricanes while he was running for office, and one of the FEMA heads said that just if the person has a Trump sign in their yard, skip them. So I don't like disasters being politicized. Everybody needs help.
Yeah.
If there's a row a street where a row of houses get destroyed, it shouldn't matter whose sign is in their yard. They need help.
Yeah.
And so I I just gotta shake my head, and we got to help people in need. If somebody gets their house flooded, I mean, we've got floods around here. I mean, granted, ever since the late '90s, early 2000s floods, there's been a lot of flood mitigation, and been a lot of work. There's been a lot of built up levees. When you look at Fargo Moorhead, Breckwap, East Grand, or Grand Forks, there's been a lot of work there, but there's still a lot of places that still flood. And so, you need FEMA to come in and help out every once in a while. I mean, obviously, this is Tornado Alley nowadays.
Yep.
You get hit by town gets hit by a tornado. I mean, Fergus got hit back in 1919. Wadena got hit. What was that? 10, 15 years ago. They got hit, and so it's one of those things where if there's a disaster, we need this not to be politicized, and we don't need it being directed out of the president's desk. I mean, quite honestly, I like to think the president's got a lot of things to do, a lot of things on his hands.
Yeah,
So
and it seems like every year there are more and more disasters, wildfires, tornadoes, hurricanes. It is becoming a more and more of an occurrence. So to have again, not necessarily backing FEMA itself, but just the idea of a
entity,
separate entity focusing on that, or separate, not straight from the presidential office. I think that there's so much going through the president. I think we need to not have it all be so focused in there.
And I mean, you also got to look this way. Trump's only going to be in office for another couple years.
Yeah,
it's not like he's. I've heard him threaten to run for a third term, but no, that's constitutionally he cannot do that. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years. And speaking of Trump, President Trump announced a trade deal with China is, quote, done. China described the talks as reasonable and frank. Trump says the tariffs would increase, but also stated that U.S. would provide China with what it was agreed to, allowing Chinese students into U.S. colleges, reversing an earlier announcement. The deal appears to include China providing rare earth minerals, a key sticking point in past negotiations. So it looks like we're going to get some of those rare earth minerals that we need for electric cars and some of the other stuff they need it for.
Yeah, all sorts of newer electronics. Yeah. That's interesting. I'm really whenever we start talking China or Russia, I don't know. I get skeptical whenever they're like, yes, this is a good thing. I'm like, this could be like them just like being like formal and what's the word I'm looking for? Diplomatic. Or there are some cases where I'm like, did they just get something they wanted that they weren't going to get before? I think this is a case where it's just diplomatic. They're like, hey, we made a deal.
Let's go with it.
Let's go with it.
Well, Zoom Stock 1250 KBRF coming up on the bottom of the hour markets. We'll be back here in just a few moments. A morning talk this morning and every morning brought to you by our good friends over at Pioneer Care and at Fergus Falls Monument Company.
Bad driving habits are hard to break, but good driving habits are easy to form, especially when they can lead to a discount on your auto insurance. With Farm Bureau Financial Services, the safer you drive, the more you save. Drivers like you are saving an average of $321 per vehicle. So buckle up, learn more, and find an agent at fbfs.com/save. Individual savings results may vary. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
Mowing doesn't have to be a chore. When you've got the right machine, it can actually be enjoyable. This is Sherry. Come check out our lineup of Hustler mowers and let us help you find one that makes the job smoother, faster, and easier on your back. You might even start looking forward to lawn day, especially when it runs like it should and cuts clean every time.
You know what summer needs: a little sunshine, a little shopping, and a lot of savings. Pick up a free Fergus Falls Super Summer Savings Card and score deals at 30 Fergus Falls Chamber businesses. Dining, home decor, auto service, coffee, you name it. Just show your card and save. Get BOGO offers and discounts up to half off. Free cards are available now at the Chamber. Visit Fergus Falls and participating businesses. Go to fergusfalls.com for details on the Super Summer Savings Card.
KBRF presents Where to Eat, the culinary adventure, sponsored by Dandelion and Burdock and Service Food in Fergus Falls.
Hi, I'm Zach Daniels.
And I'm Dave Bishop, your guide to the region's culinary treasures.
Join us as we explore various restaurants, uncover delicious meals, and highlight each restaurant's signature dish.
Experience diverse cuisine types, unique atmospheres, and must-try dishes. Check it out on KBRFradio.com and the Fergus Now app.
New episodes air every first Friday of the month. Where to Eat, powered by Dandelion and Burdock and Service Food of Fergus Falls.
Previously on the Under the Hood show, when I was a kid, I had a chance to get a chemistry set.
I got
only
the
I'd have known.
set, and I started experimenting with the baking soda and the vinegar thing, and how cool that was. And of course, I had to overdo it like I do everything, and I got it on a little bigger level, and I got in a lot of trouble, and we had to buy new carpet for the living room. It was not good.
You should listen to the
Nordstrom's Under the Hood show with the Motor Medic right here.
KBRF, 1250 AM, every Saturday at 10 a.m.
I'm Derek Sidian with KBRFradio.com news. Join me live every Friday on KBRFradio.com or the Fergus Now app for the weekly news recap, where I recap this week's hottest local news and you catch up on what you might have missed. The live stream starts at 12:30 and will be available to watch after the stream ends. The KBRFradio.com weekly news recap is brought to you by Fergus Falls Monument, online at foreverstonememorial.com, memorials that matter.
Good morning. Market update on the Red River Farm Network. I'm Randy Conan. Grain markets continue to trade mostly higher here at the moment. So we've backed off a little bit on the corn market here, trading actually just a fraction higher. Country futures market analyst Darrell Holliday says the grain's fairly quiet now ahead of today's USDA report.
The export sales numbers were probably, I'd call them disappointing across the board. Wheat number disappointing, soybeans the lowest of the marketing year, but that's not totally surprising. Corn, okay. Well, I think anytime ahead of this report, there's just a lot of uncertainty what they're going to do on the corn. I think all the focus on old crop will be on the corn, and that what do they do with exports? They need to bump it up, but at the same time, they probably need to move feed use down, and that puts them in a difficult situation. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty there, and I don't think there's anything magical in the day. We're waiting to see what the numbers are. Yes, I think the winter wheat production numbers will go up slightly anyway. So most of the big news is somewhat negative, but a lot of that negative news is built in.
Livestock markets continue to be volatile.
Generally, a sell-off in the cattle. We opened steady back and forth. I think a lot of concerns about, after you get past Father's Day, meat movement, those type of things. Same thing, it's there. Cash is certainly, we've seen some cattle in the South traded 2 to 3 higher than last week as far as the top end, but and a lot of that's built in, and just some sell-off that we've seen. Generally, we get the good news in, and then we sell the futures off, and the futures stay at a big discount. That's kind of still been the pattern. The hog side, the pork exports this morning were really poor. One of the worst numbers, well, it's worse of the year.
You're listening to the Red River Farm Network.
Zidua SC has a wide application window. According to BASF business rep Bill Olson, it's also a great tank mix partner.
If you can't get it on right away, you can tank mix it in there when you're spraying Liberty over the top, or if you're in a list platform, you can mix it in with that one as well, so it's easily tank mixable.
Sunrise Rotary is dedicated to improving the lives of others through a variety of health, hunger, and humanitarian efforts. This year's international project is the Farm and Health Security of Mount Selinda, Zimbabwe. Sunrise Rotary of Fergus Falls donated 2 farm tractors to the community of Mount Selinda in 2014. However, the tractors are in need of repair. With your help, new tires, replacement parts, and maintenance supplies will be sent to ensure the continued success of this project. This message in support of Sunrise Rotary brought to you by Service Food of Fergus Falls.
The Sunrise Rotary Adams School Reading Program gives members the chance to read books to second grade students at Adams Elementary School. The books are selected by teachers and purchased by the Rotarians. After the books are read to the students, they're made available to students in the school library. Children enjoy having books read to them, then they get a chance to read them on their own.
Thank you for the generous donations from the private individuals of the community in support of Sunrise Rotary.
Keeping you company out on the lakes, the Minnesota Twins, and News Talk 1250 AM KBRF.
Hey, Twins fans, it's afternoon baseball today. Twins and the Rangers rubber match of a 3-game series. We hit the air at 11:30, so bring the coffee and the bagels. Then at 12:10, it's first pitch. It's Bailey Ober and Patrick Corbin. We'll take you from late breakfast on into the afternoon. Join me and Danny right here on your home for Facebook.
News Talk 1250 AM KBRF. Depend on it.
He taught you how to ride a bike, change a tire, and yell, "Four!" like he meant it. He's the king of the grill, the master of dad jokes, and the guy who's still using the same driver from 1998. This Father's Day, honor the legend with a round at Pebble Lake Golf, voted one of Minnesota's top 25 golf courses, because real heroes wear polos and sometimes socks with sandals. Book your tee time now at playpebblelake.com. Pebble Lake Golf, golf like a father.
There's lots of gear to help you fish, but make sure you pack your guides in your tackle box. Listen to Todd and Phil from PT's Guide Service during Gone Fishing, presented by Frontier Marine and Power Sports. Gone Fishing helps you land more fish by letting you know the techniques that are working on area lakes. Listen in as PT's Guide Service shares a boatload of experience. Gone Fishing can be heard right here every Friday afternoon at 5:25, presented by Frontier Marine and Power Sports. Listen in this Friday and let people know you've gone fishing.
Sunrise Rotary is dedicated to improving the lives of others through a variety of health, hunger, and humanitarian efforts. This year's international project is the Farm and Health Security of Mount Selinda, Zimbabwe. Sunrise Rotary of Fergus Falls donated 2 farm tractors to the community of Mount Selinda in 2014. However, the tractors are in need of repair. With your help, new tires, replacement parts, and maintenance supplies will be sent to ensure the continued success of this project. Thank you for generous donations from the private individuals in the community.
Community is important, and you'll find it at Pioneer Point. Spacious apartments, thoughtfully designed for older adults, provide the best in senior living. Heated parking and elevator access makes life easy. Your neighbors at Pioneer Point hold a welcoming, family-like approach to living. Choosing from an array of special features and options, you'll find many ways to define your lifestyle at Pioneer Point. Call or schedule your tour online today at pioneercare.org.
Sunrise Rotary is dedicated to improving the lives of others through a variety of health, hunger, and humanitarian efforts. This year's international project is the Farm and Health Security of Mount Selinda, Zimbabwe. Sunrise Rotary of Fergus Falls donated 2 farm tractors to the community of Mount Selinda in 2014. However, the tractors are in need of repair. With your help, new tires, replacement parts, and maintenance supplies will be sent to ensure the continued success of this project. This message in support of Sunrise Rotary brought to you by Service Food of Fergus Falls.
Hey, it's News Talk 1250 KBRF. Listen anytime, any place with the Fergus Now app on your phone. A forecast for today, we're going to see a little bit of rain today into tonight, maybe even a thunderstorm after 4 o'clock. We'll hit 71 today's high, 54 for tomorrow's high, 54 for tonight's low, 56 for tomorrow's high, 51 on Friday night, 69 on Saturday, 76 on Sunday, 80 on Monday. All with at least a possibility of seeing some precipitation. So we're going to see a little bit of rain, a little bit of thunderstorms, a little bit of pretty much about everything. So again, well, hoping, Derek, we're hoping that it's going to be fine for Summerfest this weekend.
We are hoping so badly, but you know what? I will be using the most trusty tool to determine the weather this weekend.
The Weather Rock.
The Weather Rock. Zach Daniels popped into the newsroom this morning and provided me with one. He said he had one for you as well. Is ye old Dutch weather rock. If rock is wet, it is raining. If rock is hot, it is sunny. If rock is hard to see, it is foggy. If rock is white, it is snowing. If rock is gone, there's been a tornado. Oofda.
I remember seeing one of these when, there's so many different versions of it. I've seen the Norwegian weather rope. I've seen they're cute.
Yeah, it's just a cute little thing. The back of this says it came from the Bit of Love gift shop in Battle Lake. So you want your own weather rock to help easily determine what weather you're having. Battle Lake Bit of Love gift shop.
And it says for rock placement instructions for accurate weather information, place rock in an open area. Remove any trees which may interfere with accurate input. If placed indoors, it will not work. If stolen, come buy another one at Bit of Love.
Yeah.
So, there we go. And people watching the stream are noticing that Derek and I swapped spots.
Yes, we did.
I'm back in the KBRF studio where I normally am.
You're in your rightful place over there.
It's just so much easier to do an interview if, we're in the same room. So,
yeah. It just happens like that.
And as we talk about, some of the fun over the weekend, I know if it is going to get wet, people might head to the movies. And Derek, you are our resident movie expert. And let's talk about what we're going to be seeing in theaters. Everybody seems to be on this live action remake kick. And we got one of my favorites when I was a kid. Well, I'm probably a teenager. How to Train Your Dragon. I loved the first movie, and they're redoing it.
Yes, they are redoing the How to Train Your Dragon into the new live action film that is coming out this weekend. It'll be at the Westridge Theater this weekend. For those of you unfamiliar with the story, it's about this group of Vikings on the Isle of Berk, and they're being ravaged by dragons. But the village chief's son isn't interested in killing the dragons and ends up injuring one of them and becomes friends with it. And really great story about friendship. I've heard some mixed things about early reviews, but it, it's a really good story. I hope they've done it right. But that is coming out this weekend. Some of the ones that have already been out that are still going to be at the Westridge Theater this weekend. Ballerina, a John Wick story.
A John Wick story.
John Wick story. I can remember if I was confusing that with the Star Wars stories.
It's Anna Diamos.
Yep.
She is going to be playing the female assassin known as the Ballerina. And from the previews, it looks like Keanu Reeves is at least going to be in it a little bit, or at least make an appearance.
Yeah. Yep. Keanu Reeves does make an appearance, but it's just it's a spin-off of the John Wick movies. So if you've seen those, your typical like action secret agents, it's going to be right up your ballpark. I've heard it's really great.
And
from what I've heard,
they were going to make a spin-off TV show, whether it be TV or streaming, called The Continental, which is based on the Continental hotels. But one of the main actors actually ended up passing away, and so I think it kind of got shelved. There it was I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He played Zavala in a video game I play, but he passed away. I do believe it's cancer or something like that. And so they kind of put it on the back burner for now. At least that's the latest I've heard from the Continental. But yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like they are working on a John Wick 5. It will be just from what I've just quick looked up here. Keanu Reeves might not be on board with John Wick 5.
Yeah, he didn't like the script.
Yeah, so they're still working stuff out with that. So, but for now, the Ballerina should quench any fans of John Wick.
Yeah.
There's also the Karate Kid Legends, which is the newest attempt to revitalize the Karate Kid franchise. I know a lot of people liked Cobra Kai, which was on YouTube Premium, I believe. At least originally,
was it on YouTube or was it on Hulu?
It originally was on YouTube Premium.
Okay.
It was one of their YouTube originals that they did, but I think it has moved to other platforms.
But yeah, that had Ralph Macchio, then the guy that played Johnny.
Yep, and Daniel LaRusso is back for this one. I think they were talking about him in some of the previous attempts to get the franchise going. He was in Cobra Kai. Now he's back. And they talked really well about the script. I haven't heard anything particularly.
Got Jackie Chan in it.
Yep, it's got Jackie Chan in it. And then another new kid who can hopefully keep this franchise going as long as it's... Yeah. And then the other ones that have been playing for a little while now, the live-action Lilo and Stitch remake.
Now, you've seen that. Let's get your review on that one.
It has been a very controversial, online at least, it's been very sort of controversial in terms of how it's been received. There are some major changes that they make, especially to the ending, that a lot of people don't like. I was fine with at the time. I'm still not really sure with how I sit with it. But at the end of the day, if you don't like it, there's always the original. The original still exists. But there were some really fun scenes. It was the child actress that plays Lilo does a fantastic job. They just make some interesting choices. They've removed sort of a major character, and that sort of shifts some of the character dynamics.
One of the things I read online, and one of the big, big themes of the original animated movie was, I think, I'm trying to remember the actual Hawaiian term.
Ohana?
Ohana, yeah. They kind of removed Ohana. It was, family. Family was like the huge thing that everything centered around in the original. And from what I've read, it's like they just kind of ignored that theme.
I think they mentioned Ohana more than they did in the original. Like they
Really?
used the word Ohana more, but like I said, without spoiling the ending, because it is a different ending for this. It does have a different ending. Things do not end the same way. It's pretty close, but there is enough difference where I will say there's a spoiler
Okay.
if I talk about it too much. But a lot of people feel like they lost sight of that theme of Ohana because of the way it ended. And yeah, and especially with, like I said, some of the character, they removed one of the villains that sort of just kind of comes in at the end, and instead makes one of the people who kind of ends up being part of that little found family, at the end of the original one, they make him go full villain. And so,
well, let's not ruin it.
yeah, but yeah, it's definitely not going to be for everyone who was a fan of the original, but it stands on its own, and I think it is worth a watch.
Okay.
On its own. And then lastly, at Westridge, Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, the last one in the Mission Impossible franchise, or at least that's what they've said, is that it's sort of the last one.
The last hurrah.
I haven't watched very many of the Mission Impossible movies.
I saw the first one in theaters. I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I watched the second one, I think, on DVD, and I was just like, and then Tom Cruise kind of went into the whole kind of Tom Cruise crazy cycle of his life, and I just kind of fell away from it there. I like Simon Pegg; he's in it too. So
yeah, he was introduced in Ghost Protocol, which was number 4, right?
I don't know. He was introduced sometime along the way.
I think so, because that was the first one I really watched. I'd seen a couple of scenes from the second one, but then I think the only one that I watched fully is Mission Impossible 4: Ghost Protocol, which I thought that was a decent movie, and it was just one of those ones where I haven't had time to go back and actually watch any of these. I probably will once this one's out and easily accessible. I might do sort of I got baby coming, so maybe I'll spend a day watching all the Mission Impossible movies. But yeah, it sounds like it's more. Again, this is another one I haven't personally heard any reviews about, but that's another one that's out there. Another great action one for people who like action movies.
And I love action movies. Mary and I talk about movies a lot. And our interests are heavily different on a lot of movies. I love the action, the sci-fi, the fantasy, and I like comedies. I love comedies. And Mary's more into the romantic comedies and that. I'm just like, to me, romantic comedies are always depressing. It's like they got to make you cry first, and then she's got to build herself back up, and it's no.
I think the thing with those is I think there's a lot of people who don't like just straight comedy, which is weird. It's not something I really think I really realized until the last few years. There's some people who just aren't a big fan of
they don't want to
watching
be
comedy
happy.
movies. But if you bring them in with something that makes you connect that emotionally, then you can kind of get past it. And I don't know. I personally I love comedies, and I don't mind a good rom-com here and then. There've been a few times the last year where I've been like, hey, I went to my wife and been like, hey, let's watch this rom-com. She's like, you want to watch that? And I'm like, yeah.
The litmus test on this, and this is a movie that Mary and I see two incredibly different ways. The Notebook. Have you been forced to watch it?
I have not.
Okay.
That is one I have not watched. I haven't watched that many rom-coms.
Okay. That's not a rom-com. That's just
yeah.
It's a Nicholas Sparks movie, and it's just.
You know that you've got stuff out there for everyone, and but this weekend in theaters, very heavy focus on action, adventure,
It's summer. You got to get out there. You got to get the
Gotta
sky
get,
beam.
get the
You got to
block
get the
pads.
explosions.
Gotta get those blockbusters, beat 'em ups, and then Lilo and Stitch.
And Lilo and Stitch. Hey, one of the things we've been talking about kind of off and on throughout today's episode or today's show is Summerfest happening up at the Kirkbride. Obviously, one of the main things about Summerfest and any of these festivals is the parade.
Yes.
And as you look back at your time as a kid, what were some of your favorite things to get thrown to? I mean, obviously they're not supposed to throw candy, but they do. But what were some of your favorites? Like if somebody's listening and saying, "Hey, we're in the Summerfest parade coming up on Saturday. I need to find something that the kids are gonna like. What are we gonna get?"
Ooh, I think you can never go wrong with Dum Dums or Fruities,
Okay.
the little flavored Tootsie Rolls. Those two things, like they're small. You can throw like a handful of them out, and all sorts of different flavors. I think it's a great variety. Me personally, other than I'd say the flavored Tootsie Rolls, because it's like the only time I ever really got those as a kid was at parades. The other thing I only really got at parades that I really love was Bit-O Honey.
Bit-O Honey.
I don't see it as much anymore at parades.
I don't remember the last time I saw Bit-O Honey.
It's still out there. You can go. There's sometimes where I'm like, you know what, I should just get a package, but it's a lot to have a whole package to yourself of Bit-O Honey. But it's one of those. I don't want to say older like your caramels or that you see a lot of like
Werther Originals.
grandparents have in there, but
I like Werther Originals.
I love Werther Originals. They have these. So one of the things I really dislike about a lot of candies is the fact that a lot of them are individually wrapped.
Yeah.
It is so annoying. I hate at one time when I first got a job and was making my own money, what I would do is I had a little candy dish.
Okay.
I get a package of Smarties, a big package of Smarties, and just like throw on something on the TV and just unroll all of them
That's
into this
anarchy.
candy dish. So that way, whenever I want to get some Smarties, I could just grab them like that. But they have these tiny little boxes of Werther Originals. They're sugar free, but you can't taste the difference.
Yeah.
And they're phenomenal. I used to, when I was working up in Fargo, I used to buy a package of those and have those on the job and just take one every now and then. It was
Interesting side fact for Smarties. Do you know what the manufacturing plant or the machines that mold the Smarties were originally molding?
Oh, I think I've heard this before. I don't off the top of my head.
It was gunpowder for ammunition during World War I or World War II. And they're like, well, what are we gonna do with this? And they're like, hey, let's press candy. Let's get some flavored sugar and press it in and compress it. And
Yeah, and
that was the original thoughts of Smarties. I don't know if they still use it or what it is, but it's just one of those weird trivia things you come across.
Yeah, I imagine the first few thousand people that have Smarties ended up with some sort of poisoning of some kind due to gunpowder residue, but
it's a little tangy here, isn't it?
got a little bit of kick here.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure they clean the machine.
Yeah,
it's been a while. You can go get your Smartie fix, but
no, those Fruities, I don't know if you're a fan of them or not, but I love them.
It's flavored wax. It's really just flavored wax.
But they're so good. But the flavors are so good.
I'm not saying they're bad. It's flavored wax.
The other thing is the only time I ever find them is in like a giant bag of one flavor. Like they'll have like I don't know if I'm just looking in the wrong places, but like every time I've actually found them out in the wild since having my own money and wanting to buy them, we got like bags like, if you can see on the camera, like this big, this tall. It'll just be like they'll be like all blue raspberry or all grape or all watermelon. And I'm like, I want a bag of assorted so I can get all the flavors.
One of the first things I had to do, or well, I guess not first thing, but one of the things throughout my tenure here that I've done is I've done a lot of parades. I've done lots of parades for many, many years. And I'd have to say probably one of the coolest things we've thrown out. I mean, we've thrown out shirts, we've thrown out little footballs, we've thrown out a lot of different things. But one of the Summerfests, we I wanted something different. It was really, really hot. So I went out and I bought a big box of freezer treats, or those little basic Kool-Aid frozen, whatever the heck they're called,
Yeah.
icicle pops or something like that.
Mhm.
So I froze those and I threw those out, and I thought it was a great idea. Except one of my friends was like, "Yeah, Dave, when you threw that out, it like hit the concrete and like scraped and then like opened." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Ah." But I mean, it was a different idea.
It is always great when you have multiple hands for stuff like that, and like
Yeah.
so you got the person like driving or whatever, and you got people walking on the side handing that sort of stuff out. But
That'd be great. But if you're one person in a truck, there's not
yeah,
much you can do.
just stick with candy then.
But hey, speaking of which, as somebody who's been in many, many parades, parents, please watch your kids. Don't let them run out in the street. I have had to slam on the brakes so many times because some kid all of a sudden, oh, there's a Tootsie Roll. Let's run out in front of the big giant truck.
Yeah, that is the danger of candy. But you know what? One of my favorite things to get at a parade is that isn't candy. The little political handouts from the different people who are going to be running
Really?
for politics. No, I always roll my eyes at those. I get why they do it. It's a great time to do that. But as someone else, sitting on the side who's always just grabbing whatever comes by, it's just like all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I've got a bunch of these that
It's like they're saying, here, you throw it away.
yeah, and there's nothing like here's all the things that I'm like supporting. It's just here I am, vote for me. And I'm just like,
Well, they do it for name recognition, and of course, you got to show your support in the community. So again,
yeah,
parents, keep an eye on your kids. I mean, especially I know my dad was a Shriner and was in the Car Corps for a while, and he's like, the kids are just unruly.
yeah,
And so, especially you get those go-karts going pretty fast. You definitely got to watch your kids. So, especially if you see the Shriners coming, make sure you hold on to your kid and don't let them run out in front of those carts.
yeah. That's gonna be interesting this year with our little one, because she's into candy now and she's running. So I'm gonna be one of those parents. Just to, might have to get some sort of like fence put up around her.
It's News Talk 1250 KBRF Morning Talk. Derek Sidian joining me this morning. As well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock on the way. More Rotary. I do believe Rudd Wasson will be talking to me in about 15 minutes, or about 20 minutes from now, and well, much more. It's all on the way on News Talk 1250 KBRF Morning Talk, brought to you this morning and every morning by our good friends at Pioneer Care and at Fergus Falls Bodyman.
Do you experience pain, cramping, tingling, and numbness in your hands and feet? Is your balance